Welcome to America's Dinner Table, or also known as Dallas Dinner Table. I'm Teresita Hurtado Ramos. I use pronouns she, ella, and I'm here with Dinner Table. I'll just say Dinner Table right now. As a long-term facilitator, I have been facilitating with Dallas Dinner Table. This will be my 12th year. I moved here from Phoenix, Arizona during the recession of 2008. And one of the first things that my roommate and I did was Google race conversations, race relations, anything with race in Dallas County. And this popped up. And we went to, they didn't have informational sessions at that time. This is our first time ever that we're doing info sessions. So folks that were literally handpicked, because all of y'all were hand chosen, by the way. We didn't do a mass marketing for folks to come and facilitate with us. And the reason why that is because talking about race relations is quite complicated. It's hard. And sometimes it's very emotional for folks, right? Including facilitators. So we wanted to make sure that not only did we select folks that have experience with facilitating, or maybe they don't have experience with facilitating professionally. However, they have been noted as potential wonderful facilitators when it comes to gathering folks that never met each other. They're complete strangers, and having raw conversations about their own lived experience when it comes to race in the United States of America. So I've been addicted since I started. I hope that you all will join us as facilitators, and we're gonna just be telling you a little bit more history about Dallas Dinner Table. And we're gonna have wonderful panelists here that are gonna be sharing their own lived experience of how Dallas Dinner, or America's Dinner Table, has been an influence in their lives and how they've been an influence for others. So for the folks that are here, thanks for showing up. Remember, it might seem like there's only a little bit of you all, and that's because you were hand chosen. And also we are recording this for folks that could not make it today, but are still interested in facilitating. So we're gonna share what our mission is. It's to engage people and challenge assumptions through dialogue to build understanding and strengthen connections. So we're not here to have debates about race relations in the United States. We are solely here to speak from the I perspective and our own experiences with race relations in the United States. We're here to encourage communication about race relations and the impact of ethnicity on relationships, to educate participants about perspectives held by others related to race relations, and to empower citizens to develop relationships with people from a variety of racial and ethnic groups. Because the reality, folks, is we do talk about race, but we probably talk about race with people that look like us or people that we trust. But a lot of us don't have conversations about race, what we would call in company, right? But this is our opportunity in company to have raw conversations about race. Our vision is to achieve an America without racism through the power of conversation. And that's what we solely do here, is just provide a safe and brave space for folks to have conversations about race. Oh, I hear a little bit of an echo. If y'all wouldn't mind muting yourselves, if you're not in conversation, that would be wonderful. All right, I see Peter here from the board. I would love for Peter to share the history of America's Dinner Table. Peter?
First, I just want to thank everybody for attending, getting up early and sharing your Saturday morning with us. So this is 22 years that we are now delivering this process, a safe discussion about race. And as Teresita was talking, I was just thinking that we've been doing this successfully for 22 years. And many people revisit a Dallas Dinner Table just to see how they're progressing personally with their with their feelings and their response to racism in America. So I really appreciate you bringing that up, Teresita, and for all the other folks that are on this call that have been serving Dallas Dinner Table for 5, 10 plus years. Thank you very much. Dallas Dinner Table came about through the Leadership Dallas Alumni Association in 1998, 1999. In 1990, as a response to a very tragic incident in Jasper, Texas, where Mr. James Byrd was dragged to his death just because of the color of his skin. And our Dallas leadership alum took it on their selves to say that this is enough, that obviously racism is just not going to cure itself, that we have to be intentional about defeating and getting rid of racism in America. And so this process was created. As I said before, after 22 years, I am so proud to report that of the thousands of dinner tables that have been conducted by facilitators that are on this call, and we would appreciate if you felt it in your heart to join us, that over those thousands of dinners over 22 years, we have always had successful beginnings and endings to those dinners because of our well-trained facilitators. Facilitators are what make Dallas Dinner Table what it is. We cannot have a dinner table without great facilitators. And the Rainwater Foundation is founded in their heart to fund us and to grow us nationally, hence the change in name from Dallas Dinner Table to America's Dinner Table. So Teresita, thank you so much. I really appreciate this, and good morning to all of you.
Thanks, Peter, for taking on one of the hard responsibilities of being a board member for this. Another thing that Peter didn't humbly mention is that this dinner table, America's Dinner Table, Dallas Dinner Table, has been on the backs of sole volunteers. We did have about a year where we had one sole person that was staff, and then we were able to hire on a person to assist with that. Hey, Glennis, thank you for helping. But right now it's just solely one person again at this time. So it's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, a lot of time, talent, and treasure of these board members that have been carrying Dallas Dinner Tables, America's Dinner Table, literally on their backs for decades. So thank you, Peter, and the board for continuing to do this work. We really appreciate you. So history of America's Dinner Table. In 2021, Dallas Dinner Table began its long-planned expansion to America's Dinner Table, ADT, continuing to provide the dinner table experience to communities not only in Texas, but across the nation. And events are held in the virtual or in-person setting, and ADT prepares materials based on the needs and diversity initiatives of each organization. So that's where you see like where we interchange the America's Dinner Table with Dallas Dinner Table. So what I'm going to do now is show a quick video of what a potential dinner table looks like in person. But we want to remind you that this year for MLKJ's birthday, we will be doing it virtually again. So just take that into consideration. And of course, we'll be teaching you more of what does facilitating a dinner table look like virtually. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and watch this video to share more what it looks like in person.
The overall size of the event, the actual discussions take place in small groups of 5 to 8 people. In fact, the original dinner tables were just that, small groups of people sharing dinner around a table while discussing the important but often sensitive topic of race relations. During the COVID lockdowns, we began offering a virtual option while retaining the format of small group breakouts for the actual discussions. Each table is composed of individuals from diverse backgrounds, which in addition to race and ethnicity, might include religion, nationality, sexual orientation, or socioeconomic status. Each table has a skilled facilitator who is trained in America's Dinner Table's proprietary discussion protocol. The facilitator does not drive the discussion towards any predetermined point of view, but rather guides the participants on their own journeys towards greater insights into the lived experiences of those who are different than themselves. Our facilitators strictly enforce a safe, respectful discussion. Each participant gets to express their views in response to unique questions posed to them, without interruption or challenge from their fellow participants. It is not a debate. As a participant, expect to spend 15% of the time expressing your perspectives and sharing experiences, while spending 85% of the time respectfully listening to your fellow participants. The discussions can cover a range of topics, including education, economics, health, religion, environment, criminal justice, or arts and culture. The questions start off with icebreakers to enable the group to get to know each other a bit before moving on to more serious and typically sensitive topics. Other segments include Listen and Learn, and an open discussion with sharing of aha moments.
When the formal discussion ends, after approximately 90 minutes, many are eager.
All right. Hopefully this video was helpful for you all to get an actual visual of what an in-person Dallas dinner table or America's dinner table looks like. But a reminder once again that we will be doing it virtually. Another thing that I wanted to correct is in the video, it said we have about 5 to 8 participants that share in the conversation, but we actually aim for 10 people. So you as the facilitator and then 9 strangers that would be coming in to facilitate. Now, sometimes some participants don't show up and you may have, the 5 to 8 that they mentioned, but we do aim to have 10 folks at the table. All right, so what we're gonna do now is have the panel, I'm sure you all have questions, but we're gonna have the panel come in first and answer some questions that you may have. And then of course you all have time at the end to ask some questions as well. So for the panelists that are going to be sharing, if you all wouldn't mind sharing your name, your pronouns if comfortable, and how long you've been facilitating for ADT and DDT. And we will start first with, let's start with Sharon.
Thank you very much, Teresita. Good morning, everyone. My name is Sharon Coleman. I'm calling in from Louisville, Texas. I'm at my church today, actually, for another meeting. So they were gracious enough to give me space to do this. I have been with Dallas Dinner Table almost from its inception. Hey, Peter, good to see you. And as a friend and colleague of Beverly Wright, we did everything Beverly did, whether it was in the community or if it was at work. And she invited us to be a part of Dallas Dinner Table. So I've gotten a chance to be a participant, a host, as well as a facilitator. And I love all the roles. It just kind of depends on how I'm feeling, which one I decide for any given year. And if there was something else I was supposed to say, Teresita, remind me.
Nope, that's good for now. Thank you so much for starting us off, Sharon.
Sure.
How about Rhonda?
Yes. Good morning, everyone. My name is Rhonda Williams, and my pronouns are she and her. And I have facilitated twice, once in person, and I think that was 2018, and then once this past year, 2022, virtually. And I've only been a participant one other time, and I believe that was 2017. So I am still newer, if you will, and a returning facilitator.
Thank you so much, Rhonda. Peter. Oh, you're muted, my friend.
The computer told me I was muted, and you did too. I got 2 sources of information. I tend to go by him, he, and él. Yo hablo español también. And I've been doing the dinner table for 10 years. Nadine Bell, who was on the board, I guess, and did some of the design of the facilitation, invited me to come in one year, and I've been doing it ever since. And I live in Bedford, Texas, and I'm delighted to be a part of the dinner table.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for introducing yourself, panelists. I'm going to act as the moderator, but I may share some of my own personal experiences of being a facilitator as well. I put the questions in the chat for those that are visual learners like myself, so you all can see them there. So I'm going to start with, let's go ahead and start with you, Sharon. How were you introduced to America's Dallas Dinner Table, and what encouraged you to facilitate, or continues to encourage you to facilitate, because you're one of our longest facilitators here today?
Sure. And so what I would say is introduced through Beverly Wright again, and her association with the whole event and it getting started. What's really intrigued me about it, you know, I've been Black all my life. And I came here in '96 from Minnesota. And in Minnesota, we had this thing called Minnesota Nice. So racism was certainly existing, but we were real nice about it. So you really didn't see it. Texas is a little different. It's a little bit more overt. And what I wanted to be able to do was to facilitate the dialogue around that, uncover it for what it is, and really truly seek for love and understanding among people so we could just all get along. And that sounds so, you know, panacea, but it really is the truth. It really is the desire to see, you know, all God's children coexist.
Wonderful. And let's go ahead and have Rhonda share. So once again, how were you introduced? And what encourages you to continue to facilitate? And I know you talked about having a break as well, and maybe even share around that as well.
Yes. So how I was introduced, I don't really remember. I moved here from Florida and I did an internship of summer 2014. And so because I knew I wanted to come back to Dallas, there were several different organizations that were like on my hit list I must do, but I don't know how it surfaced. But what happened is I got on you all's mailing list in 2014. And at that time, you guys would email not weekly, but just maybe once a month. And then you would always do a call for participants, a call for facilitators. So that's what kept it in my forefront, those emails. But I don't remember how I necessarily found out about you all. But what encouraged me to facilitate is, although I had been on the mailing list for years, I think my first one was 2017, out of 2016 or 17, that January. And I was nervous. At that time, I lived in Dallas proper. And so I was selected to go right by SMU in the university parks. And so I was like, I don't know how this is going to feel or be, but I had such a great time and actually met colleagues that I still keep in touch with. So that encouraged me the following year to be a facilitator. And I cannot, for the life of me, necessarily tell you why there was a break, but I do know in spring of 2019, in February, I closed on my very first house. And so I think just in the midst of moving out of Dallas to Richardson, maybe this just got pushed to the back. But I think during COVID, you think about what's important to you and you think about how do you get reconnected. And I don't know if when Dion became the ED, it got back on my radar screen, but that's why I volunteered this past January.
Thank you so much. And this is just another example, y'all. You could facilitate for 1 year, 5 years, 20 years straight, but it's okay to take a break if you need it. We're not going to be like, you didn't facilitate this year, you're off the list. That's not the case. We encourage you to facilitate as much as you can, but we do understand that life happens, or sometimes you just need a racial trauma break, especially for our Black Americans, African American facilitators. Sometimes there's a lot of racial trauma and they just need a break. And we've heard folks say that as well, and that's okay. That is absolutely okay. Peter.
I got it this time. To be confessional, Sharon confessed to being Black all her life. I will confess to being white all my life. And so Nadine Bell, as I said, invited me to come and facilitate, and I had an amazing experience with it. I've always been puzzled about how to deal with the institutional racism as well as the individual racism that I see around me in personal and corporate and other organizations, and it's frustrating to know how to deal with it well. And this represents an opportunity for me to do something constructive, and quite frankly, one of the most important things for me is that people give me feedback about being white and how to be white better in regard to the issues of race and ethnicity and religion and all the diversity topics. And so for me, it's a real education as well as being a delight to meet new and interesting people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you so much. And for me, I believe I already said this, but I learn so much about myself every year when I facilitate, unlearning things, right? Because we are socialized to have these isms. So going into the space, it provides me opportunities of my implicit bias or my unconscious bias to surface, and for me to unlearn the racism or colorism that I had been socialized to adapt to in the United States. So I'm really big about making the day a day on and not a day off. And making sure that we continue to have MLKJ's dream, not just be a dream, but you know how folks are using the word woke. But you know, I'm awake because of these conversations that I have, and I continue to stay awake because of these conversations that I have in Dallas Dinner Table or America's Dinner Table. So let's go back to Sharon. What America's or Dallas Dinner Table specific facilitation challenges have you encountered? I'm sure you have with the many years that you facilitated. What advice can you give us?
Well, the first is, calm down and trust the process. Even as a trained facilitator, you kind of get a little nervous. So just, start there, because you are the one in concert with the host that's going to set the atmosphere for the night. Challenges, I would say, are people that tend to want to dominate the conversation. They may want to come across as, they kind of know it all. And occasionally you'll get in situations, even though you've given the ground rules out there and it's not an interrogation and things like that, that people are just so curious and they can't help themselves. So they want to dive into digging deeper, right? And so the challenge is to respectfully lift them back up from that to ensure that we stay on track with what the process is.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Peter, what do you have?
Well, I would piggyback on that. That there are people that will tend to want to take up more airtime, and we're really trying to distribute the airtime. The other part of it for me, you use the word in the presentation, dialogue. And dialogue for me implies, careful listening. It's a behavior of ears as opposed to mouth. And so I think those are, trying to create a setting where dialogue can occur and gently nudge people to manage the way they participate, like Sharon said.
Wonderful. Rhonda, what do you have for us?
Yes, mine kind of links with Sharon. It's the one in-person one I did was someone trying to take all of the airtime, and that person in particular, I remember, was an African-American male and was trying to undo what other people of color were saying was their truth. So remembering to bring people back to like the community agreement or those guiding principles of the discussion, and be willing to step in as a facilitator. Because when that is going on, people are silently looking for your voice as a facilitator. And so you have to say, John, I understand. However, let's remember. And that was nervous my first time having to do it, but it was a challenge. But I was like, if you don't speak up, others are going to feel uncomfortable. You've got to remind people about the community agreements. And I think they were called community agreements.
Wonderful. And for me, I had a particular person that was taking up space, but in the opposite way, you all. I don't know if you saw in the video, but when you're in person, you actually have tangible question cards that each individual participant will be able to answer the question. But this particular person decided to be disruptive and was starting to read every single card and did not respond verbally. And I started to notice what was going on, and it was intentional for him to take up space for the process of healing. And I called him in initially and said, hey, my friend, we don't have time for you to read every card and pick which one you feel comfortable answering. So can you please answer the next card that you received? And he didn't. And I said, thank you so much for your participation, but it seems like you don't want to participate today. And that's okay if you don't want to, but I need you to go ahead and head home today. And he did. And the people that were there at the table were actually grateful for it because they could see his intentionality was to be disruptive to the process. So what happened was, after that happened, we made it a new a community agreement that you only could pick 2 cards. And from those 2 cards, pick one and answer it. So, these lived experience that we have as facilitators allows us to guide our group agreements in the future. So that has not been a problem that I've heard of since then. Another issue that I've had before is going into a space and you're excited as a facilitator, but only the white folks showed up. There are no people of color that are there. They signed up. What we do with Dallas Dinner Tables, America's Dinner Table, is they have a computer method, where they have the participants that are going to be diverse racially, ethnically, gender identity, generational, etc. And so they did what they had to do to make sure that there was going to be a mixture of differences. However, sometimes you go into a space and folks don't show up for whatever reason. So I have, and I, please forgive me, board members, about what I am about to say right now, but this has happened to me before, where it was only the white folks that showed up, and I was the only person of semi-color. And the reason why I say semi-color is because I am multiracial. I'm Mexican and Italian, so I'm both a person of color, of indigenous ancestry, but I'm also understanding of my European background as well, being Spanish and Italian. So I'm like, hey, can you call a friend of color? Is your roommate available? I just saw him walk past and I could tell that he's Latino like me. Can he come? And they did. And that was great. And then when I used to work at a university, I literally would walk around the dorms and say, hey, students, like, there's some free food over here. We're going to talk about race. Do you want to come? And they would come, and it would help diversify our space. But in the virtual world this year, if folks don't show up, we do have some folks that will be trying to massage the space to make sure that we have the diversity that we need. But those are like 2 things that have happened. And I apologize in advance, board, for doing those things that I did in person, but I was just trying to make it more diverse, and it worked. All right. So what benefits do you receive from facilitating America's Dallas Dinner Table? Sharon, I'm going to start with you because you've been doing this for a long time now. Why do you keep coming? What are the benefits for you?
And I learned about myself too, because I do have biases. I would like to think that I don't, but I do. I'm very enlightened by the stories that I hear. So I think it makes me a better person. And again, to be a conduit for these conversations to take place, I really see it as a part of my divine design. If I didn't do it, I would feel some kind of way. So it's on the list, so I would not do it unless there was something that came up that, I couldn't get around.
I agree. I have definitely facilitated in-person training when snow and hail was on the forecast. And I'm like, I don't care. I'm still going because I know someone's going to show up and they're going to want to have this conversation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Rhonda.
Yeah, I shared at our facilitator roundtable this morning. MLK Day has always been important to me. I remember when that became a national holiday and all the synergy that we had. And I remember, and I grew up in Miami, so that was very important, very 90 nations represented in that city. So I've always been exposed to differences, but as I've grown up and moved to other cities, I've always thought, how can I honor the day? I can't go to the default parade in Miami, Florida, and no other parade is like the one in Miami, I believe. So when I was on the mailing list and you kept saying, hey, come out, can you do this? I was like, this is a way to do this with other cultures. This is a way to honor his legacy. MLK happens to be very important to me. I have several of his speeches in my cell phone. Beyond that, I have a dream. And this allows me to think about him, what he stood for, and be a bridge. And receive also, not just be a bridge, but to receive. And it's a way to do it on his day. So that's what keeps me coming back. And that's probably why I returned as well.
Thank you so much, Brenda. I love it. Peter.
Boy, there are quite a few benefits that I get. Just to lead off, I have a daughter who is in a biracial marriage. My son-in-law is Haitian. Bradford's a wonderful person, a great dad and a great husband. And they have two delightful children, Sophie and Braxton. And it helps me be a better father-in-law and a better grandpa. And to his extended family, it allows me to be a better cousin, shoestring relative. It really helps me personally in that regard with my family. In regard with professional work, I do deal with a fair number of people who are in diverse categories, and I always have an eye out for how can we improve that? And the dinner table helps me to think about that more constructively. So when we go through the question cards and we go through the scenarios and we have the quotes that we read, and all of this is another layer of learning for me, because between the last time I facilitated and this time, a few things have happened, and a quote will mean something a little bit different to me. So since it's such a key societal issue on a global basis, not just here in the US, and I do a lot of international business. So for me, it's just really, really in a pragmatic way helpful. And just the final thing is, it's very frustrating to deal with. It's not something that you can easily just go in and turn a lever to make something better. And so the dinner table helps me find ways to be able to contribute more constructively to a more diverse, equitable, and inclusive society. So I just feel like I get nourished in many ways.
Love it. Love all of this. And I agree. If you think about it, Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday lands in the first month of the year. And we all have, not all of us, but some of us try to have resolutions, right? That we want to do better and be better. And I feel like this space provides me the opportunity in the beginning of the year to reflect on things that I've learned in society that have led to, isms, racism, colorism, things that I want to unlearn, things that I want to make sure that I don't continue to teach to my own child. How can I be a better coworker? How can I be more empathetic? And most importantly, how can I be a better listener? Because as you heard in the video, you spend as a participant about 15% of the time sharing, but 85% of the time you're listening to folks. And I'm not used to that because I'm a big time talker. So to be able to stay still and listen to understand, and not listen to try to counter respond of what they're saying, is very impactful for me as a mother, as a spouse, as a coworker, as a friend, as a human being in this country that is deep rooted with racism. So it definitely helps fill up my cup as I continue with a new year. Yeah, absolutely. Last question for us, and then we're going to allow folks here to ask us questions that maybe we didn't answer yet for you all. What advice would you give to a first-time facilitator? And I'm actually going to ask Rhonda this question first, because she's one of our newer facilitators. So what advice would you give our first-time facilitator?
To relax and to experience it, because as much as you are facilitating it, to be a listener even in it. You don't speak as much, but it's your turn to learn and to see your blind sides as well. I think when you're a participant, because you're called upon, you're ready to talk, but this puts you in the seat, maybe not the back seat, but it puts you in a seat of receiving and to just receive, because believe it or not, the times that I facilitate have been more fruitful for me learning more about me than even when I was a participant. And so relax and take it in. And take it in, because you will hear different things. You're like, oh, I've never heard that before, but you move on.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Sharon?
I would say to ensure that you really study the materials in advance. So you kind of have them in your bones, or have it in your bones, so you don't get lost, because you get amazing information to prepare you during the training, a great package that you can follow along with. But and you can get lost in it if you're counting on that to help drive you through the session itself. So what I always do, even though I've done this many, many times, is I go through it, because things change from year to year. So I want to make sure I'm on top of that. I'm not using old thinking, but I usually do something more net that I sit in front of me so that I can flow and I'm not looking back and forth to the detailed documentation, because I've done that before. And you can make it, but you don't feel as confident as a facilitator when you're having to refer to sheets of paper or however you're doing it, right? So trust the process, like Rhonda was saying, and then also, study and, get it in a format that is useful to you, so that you can be as effective as possible.
Thanks, Sharon. Peter, what do you have?
I think what you guys have said is really helpful. I guess it is a structured facilitation process. It's not free form. And I know in the facilitation work that I do, I'm often in situations where I have to do free form facilitation. And so if you have less comfort with structured facilitation, I think, like Sharon said, study it through and look at it and learn the flow and the rhythm of it, because we've been using it 22 years and it's worked. And if we can slide into this structure and know it well enough to be able to let go of that structure, I'm not meaning depart from it, but let go of the worry about following the structure. If you know it well enough, you can kind of let go of it, and you can focus on the people, because the people that are there are going to be having an emotional experience. And some of them, it's a profound emotional experience. I've had people share things that I would say are intimate. They're not the kind of things you would share in most situations. But if we've created an environment of safety, emotional safety, and trust, then people do tend to allow some of these deep things to come to the surface and engage with. And I just, it's not therapy, not saying it's therapy, but it is a deeply emotional experience. And to have the privilege of sharing this with people, what a great privilege it is. So just know the structured facilitation, but then focus on the people.
Yeah. Thank you, Peter. And I would also say focus on you as a facilitator. And what I mean by that, like Peter is saying, like everyone has been saying, it's emotional. And this is the first time sometimes folks have shared the deep root of racism that they've learned, and or the deep root of racism that they've been going through as a person of color. And they've never shared it amongst company. And I have learned in my experience doing this for quite some time that sometimes things before the gathering will happen to me. Like it, I don't know how you all feel spiritually. I don't know where you all are spiritually. That's between you and yourself. But for me, I'm like, this is a spiritual attack. I know it is, because I know I'm about to do some beautiful work of racial reconciliation. So just be mindful that sometimes, like, you might be preparing and getting ready, and there might be an argument between you and someone that you love, or you get a flat tire, or something happens, right? So just try to make sure you reserve some space, like an hour or two before you get into that space, and then try to do some self-care afterwards as well, because it is a lot. You're going to hear some stories, you're going to see some tears, you're going to also receive laughter, and you're going to feel the healing, and it's beautiful. But make sure you also care for yourself before, in the space, and after as well. So I hope this was helpful for you all. I'm going to share my screen and let you all, well, first of all, before I share this, well, maybe let me share. Yeah, I'm going to share. So you all can see what the next steps are, but we do have time for question and answers from the folks that are here, but some of this might answer some of your questions. We do have a facilitator training, and we ask for you to choose one to attend. You don't have to go to all of them. It's only a one-time training. For the new folks that are joining us, I know it says, for example, 4:30 to 5:30 is the time for some of these, but we may stretch an additional 30 minutes to help you all if you have any additional questions or needs. But these are the dates. So look at the dates and the times, and figure out when you would like to attend. Be mindful, once again, that our MLKJ event is actually on MLKJ's birthday. So Monday, January 16th, not his actual birthday, but when we observe it, his birthday, but Monday, January 16th, and it's during the evening hours. So it usually starts about 6 o'clock Central Time. However, we do start a little bit earlier, especially in the Zoom world, to get us prepared to get into our breakout rooms. You will register to be a facilitator at America's Dinner Table the homepage, so americasdinnertable.org, and I will show you how to do that in a second. And of course, you could, if you have any additional questions about facilitating, you could go to volunteer at americasdinnertable.org. So any questions for anybody, the panelists, Peter from the board, or myself, that you have? Yes, Laura.
So this is fascinating to me. My concern is it crazy to offer to facilitate if you've never participated?
That's a great question. The majority of us, I would say, probably didn't participate first, and we facilitated first. The way that I learned about Dallas Dinner Tables when I moved to Dallas in 2008, I literally looked up race relations or race conversations. It popped up. I signed up, and I ended up going to a facilitator training, and I facilitated without actually participating. But in our training, we will walk through what it looks like, where it would feel like you participated in a sense, and then you would go and facilitate. But there are some folks that would prefer to actually participate the first time and then facilitate the next, and that's completely up to you. Any other thoughts?
I just jumped right into it the first time facilitating, and then I think it was like the third time I was assigned to work at a church, and we had, I think, half a dozen tables, and we had enough facilitators. So I popped in as a guest, and that was awfully fun to be able to experience it from that point of view, and also to experience how another facilitator, how they brought themselves to the facilitation process. So I would say, yeah, don't feel uncomfortable doing it, jump in. But if you do want to do it as a participant first, no problem.
Okay, thanks. I probably have a zillion other questions too, but I'll be quiet first.
Anybody else have any other questions or comments or thoughts before we allow Laura more space for her zillion questions? Okay, Laura, go ahead.
Well, I think I signed up years ago to be on, like, I was on a waiting list and tried to get to a live one, and I didn't get in. How is demand, and how are you attract? So now that it's America's Dinner Table on Zoom, how do you attract participants, and how many do you think you'll have, and what's the need, kind of thing?
Great question, and I'm going to pass that on to our friend on the board, Peter.
Okay, Laura, that's a really good question. So essentially, we've been compiling databases over the years, and if you're on there, and maybe you've been continuing to see messages over the year, we definitely want you any way you want to come to Dallas Dinner Table. But we're reaching out. Our goal this year is going to be somewhere between like about 1,000 participants, including facilitators. Our biggest issue is a lot of times is a lot of people sign up and don't come, but we definitely are prepared. As far as facilitating without attending, the people that I feel like I have to say this. Pete and Teresita are exceptional people, and they work in the space of facilitation. So I would encourage you, if you don't work in that space, to attend a dinner table first as a participant. If you have the facilitation skills that these two, because I know them personally, then obviously it's another curriculum, it's another process, and those guys are trained facilitators. So at the end of the day, I participated as a participant, and I can't tell you, just echo everything that they have told you today, how fulfilling and how wonderful. And there's this huge criticism that of Dallas Dinner Table, or America's Dinner Table, that the wrong people are at the table. But what we've done over the years is we put out thousands of people that know how to, that are more sensitive and know how to engage and have a conversation about race. And as we continue to do that, we're going to get that tip over effect. And good always wins, and we're going to prevail, and we are going to enjoy an America without racism one day, just the way we're trying to enjoy a world without COVID. So this is just a different type of virus, and we've had it for a long time, and we've decided that we're going to be part of the solution. And I so much appreciate your participation.
Love it. I love how Laura is also gracefully like pausing to see if anyone else has space. And hey, Alcida, I see you there. I miss you, my friend. Thanks for being here. Anyone else have any thoughts or questions?
No, and I want to encourage Laura to keep asking those questions because everybody's thinking them. So Laura, please.
Go ahead, Laura.
No, I think that those are, and I honestly got goosebumps when Rhonda, Sharon, and Peter were talking. Peter, I've worked with Nadine Bell, so I do have some facilitation and teaching experience. It's been years, but since working with her. So I'm fascinated and a little scared a little bit, and I think that's good because, I know the seriousness of the conversation. So I appreciate this time and opportunity to get to know you all. And I'm excited. I want to do something and help in lots of ways if I can.
Yeah,
Hey,
that's
Laura.
the first
Okay.
step. Yeah, my apology. That's the first step, and I would just say do it scared. I hear what Peter's saying. You know, if it would, you know, suit you to participate first, and then be a facilitator next year. My experience has been there, and I'm prophesying this, that there's going to be an overwhelming response for dinner table this year, and we will oftentimes get to where we're short on facilitators. And so I'd rather see you in the facilitation pool and able to serve and help to make sure that all smooths out. And if I think Peter said that he was to facilitate, came in, they had enough, so he was able to sit down and chill out. So, you know, you have to trust that whatever it's supposed to be for Laura is exactly what it's going to be.
And
I agree.
May I answer that, Teresita?
Sure, go ahead.
Sharon, you are absolutely right, and Laura, absolutely do it afraid. That is a comfortable place to be. One thing about this, speaking about this topic, we certainly may have to be in a position where we have to get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And that's the source of growth. And kind of sharing back, my first was a facilitator, was not a participant. But I can say, even though you're a facilitator, you are a participant. You are a participant. So you're there,
That's
you're
true.
engaging, you're learning, you're growing. And so you're never separated from that participatory position. You're there. No matter what your role may be, you are there as a participator. So that's the greatness of this, is having those conversations. And Sharon and Rhonda and Peter, you guys had some great tips. I took some notes as well. And I'm in the facilitation space, and so that's probably why I did okay. But still, I did it afraid. Jump and build your wings on the way down. And that's the importance of that, because we're never going to get it perfect, but we're there.
Yep, we're
And
showing
Sharon,
up.
thank you for sharing that. Yeah, absolutely.
And
right,
I always still have butterflies going in.
I do too.
I'm nervous. Okay, did I look at the outline enough times? You know, okay, this is a different group. What can I expect? You know, how do I position myself? You know, so it's there's always, for me, some apprehension going in.
For sure. And I usually check to see who's done dinner table before. Because if everybody's brand new, they have no idea what the experience is to be. So if I, don't get something perfectly right, they're not going to know. But when there's people that have been there several times before, then you have to kind of mind your P's and Q's a little bit more.
I love it. And that's true. Thank you, Sharon, for reminding us that there are some participants that come every single year.
Every year.
They don't want to facilitate. They want to participate because they know they're going to learn something different about themselves and about others when it comes to racial reconciliation. That's the power of America's Dinner Table. What I would like to do, because I know we only have a couple more minutes, is I'm going to share the website real quickly. Do you all see it? Do I have a thumbs up? Yes, or can I only see one screen, so do I have a yes? Do y'all see it?
Yes.
Okay, good, wonderful. Okay, so here's the website. Go to volunteer, click on here. And then you would scroll down, put your name, your email address that you actually answer, not the fake email address when you're trying to win a car. You could put a message if you want to, put your telephone, and then click on becoming a facilitator. Press send. It will say, congratulations, we've received it. And then you should be receiving information. Oh, can you please read quickly? I got it. And then you would be receiving some information from our team to let you all know when trainings will be, and then you will sign up for the hour training. So that will be the next steps for you that are saying, yes, I am ready to do something about racism. And I'm going to start with MLK 2023. Any questions, final thoughts, comments?
Thank you for facilitating our discussion.
Oh, thank you so much, Sharon. I love this and I appreciate y'all. Thank you all, panelists, for coming and sharing your experience. And thank you all, future panelists and facilitators that are coming in and saying, I'm interested. There's many things that you could be doing on your Saturday morning and you chose to show up and be here. So thank you for that. And I think I saw Peter unmute from the board. Peter from the board.
Oh, no, I was just taking it all in, and y'all did a great job this morning. I'm excited that for those of you that have friends, this recording will be on the website. So encourage them to watch it. And Teresita, thank you. We're going to need this year. I agree with Sharon. I think we're going to have an overwhelming response. So we're going to need these facilitators. Thank you so much.
Y'all have a wonderful day. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say thank you for making a difference in this world. It just touched my heart. So thank you.
Yeah. It takes all of us. It really does. And like Peter said, and I agree with my years that I've been with Dallas Dinner Table, this program would not exist if it wasn't for the volunteers of the facilitators, because in order for us to have participants, we need the facilitators and the host as well. We need the host. So thank you all so much for saying, yes, pick me, sign me up. I want to facilitate. And we appreciate you all. Please be safe out there and take care. Hopefully we'll see you in our training soon.
Take care.
Bye.